Hi, welcome to our session on GGJ Next. This is part of Global Game Jam 2025's prep week. Global Game Jam 2025 kicks off in just a few days, bringing together game creators from around the world. And as part of that, we have a lead up a number of sessions to give you information and background or help you develop your skills, help get you ready for the jam. What we're talking about today in this session is GGJ Next and an initiative that we have with Games for Change to create the world's largest student jam. I will jump on in then. So the Global Game Jam, as you may know, is the world's largest game jam. Game Jam is a game creation event, and we each year, we are now in our 16th Global Game Jam, bring together teams from around the world to create games. And the goal of the Global Game Jam is to be a non-competitive game creation event. We want folks to focus on innovation, experimentation, collaboration. We don't want it to be something where you're trying to create the best game because you want to win. We want it to be something where there's a learning experience. And I think as we talk about GGJ Next and students, I think that's really important because that's what learning is all about, right? It's not just about getting the best grade, but it's about actually furthering yourself and developing. GGJ Next, so Global Game Jam itself is targeted at ages 18 and up. Some places it's 16 and up, but is not a program for young students. It's a 48-hour weekend, usually where it's just everyone together, fueled by coffee or Red Bull and pizza, and whatever cuisine is regional, just creating games, right? And so that's part of it, the joy of Global Game Jam. But as we were doing that, we were finding, people said, hey, what can we do? We have younger developers, we have students that are interested. And that is where GGJ Next was born. And so that is the annual Game Jam event that GGJ does, targeting middle and high school students who are interested in creating games. It's bounced around a little bit. It used to be in the summer. More recently, it's been running at the same time as the Global Game Jam in January. Which has worked for some people and has been a challenge for others. And so we'll talk in a minute about what we're going to do and how that will change this year. The G4C Student Challenge is run with Games for Change. If you're not familiar with Games for Change, they are an incredible organization, mission aligned in many ways with us about creating games around the world. They're specifically focused on creating games that create impact, and their G4C Student Challenge targets students to become great game creators, right? This idea that students can actually tackle global challenges through video games is incredible to us, and something that as we were looking at GGJ Next, it seemed like such a natural fit. The G4C Student Talent Challenge is a competition. It happens each year in the spring. The submission date is the middle of April. And there's different awards for the games. There's a game of the year where the team wins a $10,000 US scholarship. And this year, for the first time, really, we're working with them to take it fully global. It's largely been US based. And the goal with this year's GGJ Next, G4C Student Challenge, Jam, is that we expand that to the world, right? So we're really excited about that and being able to better serve the GGJ Next jammers and the communities that our other jammers are in, so that we can hopefully help build the next generation of jammers. And so that's where, the GGA 2025 G4C Student Challenge Jam, we are their partner for that. And the first part is a non-competitive jam stage, right? Global Game Jam is still going to be and will always be not a competition. The goal for partnering and having it kick off, the initial kickoff anyway, like I said, it will run until the middle of April. But the idea with having the initial kickoff, having a GM phase with GGJ, is it starts getting developers, young developers, really excited, engaged. There's a way that you kind of do the jam, the brainstorming, the ideation, the starting to put the pieces together, and then to continue to further develop the game. So the goal for the jam part, especially if you're doing it with GGJ, but also if you're doing a different jam, which I'll talk about the other option in a moment, is not to be something where, it's got to be the best thing ever and we're going to win. And this, it's really to get teams together, to start getting kids thinking creatively and practically about games, talking about things like scope and is this realistic and how can we address these challenges, which I'll talk about the themes that are part of this in a minute, but really looking at ways that we can do that with youth and hopefully be better serving our student community within Global Game Jam. Now, one thing, as I mentioned, the Global Game Jam is this 48 hours, or it runs a week. So it's from January 20th to the 26th. Most of the sites globally will be participating the 24th to the 26th. And so it's this massive weekend sprint, 48 hours. For anyone who is working with students, and I used to do a lot with middle school kids previously to taking over Global Game Jam here in May, the truth of the matter is 48 hours is not necessarily a practical format when you're working with 10 to 18-year-olds, right? Especially that younger range. So what we have done in direct response to the GGJ Next organizers is come up with ways that GGJ Next can be run separate from, still under the Global Game Jam organization as part of the work that we do, but not constrained the same way that the official Global Game Jam is, or as opposed to it's limited to this week. It needs to run between these hours, right? And so you can do shorter jams, as short as 4 to 6 hours. You can spread them out over, 1 or more days. So it could be something you do over a couple of afternoons. It could be a one-day class, one-day school day. There's a lot of flexibility here. And this is because anyone who has ever worked or dealt with anyone in education, if you've been in classrooms, you know that there is an appreciation for here are some best practices, but that something that's set out with it has to be done exactly this way and exactly this time and exactly this isn't functional across classrooms, because you're going to know what works better for your students and your schedules and everything you have than we will, to be honest. And so those jams can run, if you want to do a GGJ Next, you can do that with the Global Game Jam from January 20th to the 26th, anywhere there. Or if you want to do GGJ Next, you can also do one of those shorter jams that run between February and the end of March, or you could also do both. So how do you participate in GGJ Next? We try to make it as easy as possible from your end. So the first thing is go to globalgamejam.org. You will see register a GGJ Next site on there. You click that button. There'll be a form you fill out. And then a member of the GGJ Next team will reach out to coordinate an interview. And this piece is really important. It's part of what we do even for the adult sites, to make sure that the person running it, it has all of the pieces together, that you have a site, that you have a thing. And especially anyone working with students and youth, we want to make sure that you are familiar with a lot of the policies and regulations and things like that, that there is certainly, enough adults in terms of being available for the students, that you have set locations, those kinds of things. And so it's really just to help you in the planning as much as anything. It's not about, this deep thing that you have to prepare for anything. It's more just we want to make sure that you're well supported to be able to run this site effectively. There's not a minimum number of students that you need. You can have a couple, you can have, a class full, you could have a school full. You could have 2 or 1, right? So the idea is how can you, one actually would probably be hard to have a jam, then it's just a solo dev. But the goal, it's not something where you have to have this specific number. Sites from anywhere in the world can participate. So that's another thing that's really especially unique to this year. This focus on creating it as an international jam experience. And then we within Global Game Jam have a limited number of stipends for sites outside of the US, because we really do want to help support and be part of the ecosystem building globally when it comes to youth. And so we have a number of a limited number, but a number of stipends available for sites outside of the US. So if you apply as a GGJ, a global game jam at GGJ Next site, there's a lot of G's. But if you apply as a GGJ Next site, you can also then apply for that stipend as well. The G4C Student Challenge Handbook will have all of the information that you need about the G4C Student Challenge. It can be found on their site, and I'll have a QR code a little bit further down for this, where you can find their page. Also, if you just Google up G4C Student Challenge, the handbook's on the page, but you can find that anywhere. And there will, well, you can find it on the web, right? But you can pull that up and I will go over, it has all of the rules, all of the things you might need to know if you are interested in doing the G4C Student Challenge. And I will go over some of those things here though, just to highlight them for you. So sites, as I said, the requirements, you must be working with youth between 10 and 18 years old. If you're working with older students who are 18 and up, there is a university student challenge. We'll be talking about that jam also during prep week. But today we're just talking about the one focused on youth 10 to 18. Students need to be in middle school or lower secondary, the equivalent of to be in the equivalent, there's two divisions, right? There's a junior division and a senior division. So to be in the junior division, they need to be in middle school, lower secondary school, 5th grade and up. It depends, obviously, what your school system, how they use the terms. But so imagining the younger half of that is in the junior division. And then for secondary school, high school, the equivalent in the senior division. Homeschooled children can also participate. So it's not, if you're not registered in a school, but your youth are homeschooled, that's completely fine as well. If some countries I know don't do homeschooling, but some do. So just having that there as well. But students have to be ages 10 to 18 is the key focus. And then if you're 18, not in university, not have graduated yet. Sites have to have a location to host a GGJ Next jam or be able to secure a location if approved, especially for the jam part. The jam part does have to be in person. If you wanted to participate in the G4C Student Challenge separately, not as part of a jam, you are able to do that. But virtual jams for the purposes of GGJ Next jams, we're asking that they be in person. If you really want to do one that's virtual, you can always reach out. We do, and we can discuss and maybe help support you. But our main core focus is those jams in person. And then you have to, the requirement is committing to host a jam between January, when the Global Game Jam kicks off, and the end of March. So participant eligibility. It is open to participants between 10 and 18, as I just mentioned. So makes sense. Your jam has to be focused on participants 10 to 18, because then when it comes down to eligibility, the participants have to be between 10 and 18. And again, they'll be submitting between that junior division for the younger group there and the senior division for the older group. Team size is between 1 and 4 students. You can do a solo developer or a solo game creator. And one of the things, if you look at the G4C Student Handbook, there are a number of categories that are available. There's different platforms, there's different things. Games do not have to be digital games. They can also be board games, tabletop games. So that's something to keep in mind. I know a lot of the folks that come through Global Game Jam do digital games, although I would say I think for GGJ Next, we see more of a split than we do for the main jam in terms of board games, tabletop games, and that's fine. For the purposes of this, there is a board game, tabletop game part of the challenge. So if the students do a digital game, a video game, that's completely fine. If they do a board game, that is also fine. So they're just different categories. And then there's also like a character art category and you can see the full list of categories in the G4C Student Challenge Handbook. If you're doing the character art, the one note there is that is not a team one, that's an individual one. And the thing is, your students can also submit for more than one. So if they do a board game and also want to do a character art, if they do, a tabletop game and want to do a digital game, there's a lot of flexibility there. There's not any limits. So just keeping that in mind. So yeah, in the team size, 1 to 4 students. If you are doing a digital game, the games must be playable on a web browser and accessible via URL. These are the game requirements. The games must be created using a free or open source platform. So Scratch, Unity, Construct, CoSpaces, Game Maker. There's a lot of really good free platform and open platforms out there. So just making sure that it lines up with that. If you're going to start, this is why we have those meetings too in the beginning with GGJ Next. Questions, ask us. We are here to support that. We're here to bring, say, yes, this platform would definitely work. But yeah, being able to do that, there's also a Minecraft and a Roblox categories that, again, if you look at the handbook, you can kind of build those out. And then the games must be about one of this year's 3 themes. So I will get to those in a minute. To be part of the G4C Student Challenge piece, so if you're doing the jam, you can do your games in whatever language you want, right? That's completely fine. But for that next piece of the G4C Student Challenge, and what we're hoping is that they take their jam games and then develop them further. The games do need to be English speaking, and I'll talk about what that means in a second, but English speaking because most of the judges will be English speaking, right? They'll all speak English. They may speak some other languages, but they won't all speak all other languages. So the games will be judged in English, and expert judges will go through them. However, it means if your game is in another language, you can provide additional resources to help English speaking judges understand and play your game. So if it's not in English, you can just provide additional resources. Google Translate can be your friend. That part is not going to be scored on grammar or any of those things. And so I really am pushing to say, don't let, if there is a language barrier, if you feel like our English isn't that strong, do not let that be the barrier. We as a global game jam are in over 100 countries. We have almost 500,000 jammers who've gone through a global game jam to date. So we will be here to help support you, right? If there is something where you say, look, the only thing that is holding our students back is adjusting it so that it can be, we can get those additional resources to the English speaking judges. We will work with you and help you. We will find someone who can work with you and help you to adjust that, because we really don't want the youth to feel like, oh, we can't submit to this because our English isn't strong enough. That is not the purpose here, really. And I think once you see, and when we go through the games, when kids play them, a lot of them, they're not language heavy. They're different, ways that things can be done and tackled. And again, English speaking does not mean perfect English. So I really want to push that, and we are here to help support that and make it accessible, because we really think that's key. And the reason that we have partnered with with Games for Change for the G4C Student Challenge to be the jam provider is what we've seen happen, and I have heard this from a lot of people, is, folks come, kids come, adults, whoever participates in the jam, and they do this really fun jam project. And then the question is, what do I do with this now? How can we support further development of those projects, of those games? And so this is a way for us, as we see, to be able to do that, to further support that and build out community internationally around those. And then also, though, I will say for the G4C Student Challenge, if you are doing a jam and your student just want to upload them from the jam that you do, that is completely fine, especially for the 10 to 18 age. There's a huge range of games that are submitted and different levels of polish. And they are not expected to be, and I always used to, when I worked with students, impart this. It's not supposed to be, World of Warcraft, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, whatever that is. It's not supposed to be that. It is going to be, a game made by kids in a couple of days or a couple of weeks or whatever amount of time they put into it. And so really often, kids will self-select themselves and say, oh, I don't think it's good enough to submit. That's not what it is. It is good enough. Put it out there. Let people play it. Let the world see it. That's also a part of this. Everything information-wise will be on globalgamejam.org. You go, if you can't find anything, if you can't find it, we'll post everything on our site. But if you can't find it, search GGJ Next, and we'll make sure, and it will come up. Anything we share via email, we will also share on our site. And then if you have questions, you can reach out to us at the updates@globalgamejam.org email, or we have a GGJ Next channel on the GGJ Discord. Our goal is to make it so it's not, where did that email go? What was that about? We will also have everything posted on our site as far as how to do GGJ Next jams, and then we will also communicate with you after you've applied to do a site, or if you haven't applied and you want to know how, go to our page. Key dates, the Global Game Jam itself and the GGJ Next G4C Student Challenge Jams kick off with the Global Game Jam. That's just the first day that they're starting. You can hold them during that. February to mid-April, again, you can do additional jams in between. We will also try and make it so there'll be webinars and things like that going on as well if your students want to get a little bit deeper into the subjects. But also just you can hold your 2 to 4 hour, your 4 to 6 hour jams if you're doing shorter ones anytime between February, mid-April. You should actually probably, the date will close for the student challenge jams, and I will make sure we update this because we will send this deck out to you. The student challenge jams should be done by the end of March because mid-April is when the submission deadline is for the Games for Change submission portal. Although you can submit that anytime from, again, right now, if you do your jam with GGJ and you say, hey, we're going to have the kids upload them to the portal now, that's fine. Or you can then also have them do it, but as April 18th is when the portal closes. Just to touch on the themes really quickly. So Global Game Jam always has a theme, but then there's diversifiers within that. The G4C Student Challenge, again, has 3 possible themes that students can choose from. We recommend, and the way that most GGJ Next jams will run, is that you pick one for your site, and you have all of the students tackle that one topic, because otherwise you'll have multiple students trying to do multiple things and different topics. And we've just found for GGJ Next specifically, the university challenge is broader. We're saying they can, because they're going to be self-led largely, but for a GGJ Next site, pick one topic and then have all of your students create a game around that. So different teams, obviously, but one topic. And the topics for that are nurture yourself with nature. All of these topics are social impact topics around the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But nurturing yourself with nature is around, enjoying the natural world, taking time to appreciate it, games that really look at that through the lens of like, how do we both appreciate nature, think about nature, further engage more strongly with nature, right? So that's that one. Peace Formers is another one. Peace Formers, again, and all of these, if you go to the G4C Student Challenge site, the link will be at the end here with a QR code. There's lesson plans, resources, more information, things to support you in rolling these out with your students so that, again, you're able to help them create the best games possible and also learn in the process about these challenges that are being faced on a global level, that we're asking them to submit their insights into how we can create a better world, right? So Peace Formers is another one, looking at how resource allocation, how we can make sure that everybody has the resources that they need to survive and thrive, really creating better worlds, right? More peaceful places. So that's what the Peace Formers Challenge is. And again, on the G4C site, there's a lot more. And then Outplay Hunger. So world hunger is something that impacts people globally, right? 1 in 10 people worldwide are affected by hunger. And so looking at games that tackle, again, this very serious issue, but in a way where we're pushing youth, students to think about how we can create solutions, how we can address these issues through a game, right? And so all of this, again, the lesson plans, resources, there'll also be, like I said, additional webinars during the second half of this, like with experts and things, but ways that these can be tackled is our goal. And anything more you need, so if you have more questions on the G4C Student Challenge, what the categories are, like I said, the resources to get deeper into the questions about, the timeline or the resources for if you want to do nurture yourself with nature, what that looks like, right? Where you can find more resources, more details. The G4C Student Challenge will have all of the links that I showed as far as the actual competition piece, which will start and which will then run through April, and which we will be creating, hopefully, the games. Like I said, the goal is to create jam games and then have them be something that students can further develop or put forth as part of this, because really the goal is to create solutions. And while it's a challenge, and while there is an award and things, the challenge is not necessarily around being the best and winning. The challenge is we are challenging with G4C students to come up with solutions to create better worlds, right? And so we're really, really excited about this partnership. We're excited to be able to expand the work of GGJ Next to serve more students around the world. And we are really excited to see what your kids come up with and create in ways that we at Global Game Jam can support that. So the G4C Student Challenge will be where you go for the information around the challenge, but we at GGJ Next will help prepare you through the GM. We will help provide all of that information, and everything will come through us to make sure that you have everything you need to go through and be part of this. So we really appreciate you being here today and taking part in this session. If you have any questions, like I said, let us know. Updates at globalgamejam.org. We are on Discord. We are pretty much anywhere. If you can't find us on various socials and email, you can find us in all those places. But if you're on a different platform, feel free to connect with us there. On social media, we are trying to be as accessible as possible so that we can support your efforts. So really appreciate you coming and learning more about GGJ Next, and we will go from there. Thanks, everyone.